Total gastrectomy, meaning the complete surgical removal of the stomach, produces a picture identical to pernicious anemia because intrinsic factor is manufactured by parietal cells in the gastric fundus. Remove the stomach entirely, and you remove the only source of intrinsic factor. Without intrinsic factor, B12 absorption fails, exactly as it does in pernicious anemia. Disorders of the distal ileum represent an anatomically different failure point. In this scenario, intrinsic factor is being produced normally by an intact stomach. It binds B12 normally in the gut, and the B12 intrinsic factor complex travels appropriately down to the distal ileum. But the distal ileum, the specific site where those specialized receptors for the complex are located, is diseased, damaged, or surgically absent. So the complex arrives but cannot be absorbed. Examples include Crohn's disease affecting the terminal ileum and surgical resection of that segment. A strict vegetarian diet, particularly an absolute vegan diet with no animal products whatsoever, leads to B12 deficiency through an entirely different mechanism. The absorption system is working perfectly. Intrinsic factor is produced normally. The ileum is intact. The receptors are functioning. The problem is simply that there is no dietary B12 coming in to be absorbed. Vitamin B12 is found exclusively in foods of animal origin: meat, fish, eggs, dairy. No plant food provides meaningful amounts of B12. Without any dietary input and with body stores eventually exhausting themselves, deficiency is inevitable, though it typically takes years to develop given that B12 body stores are relatively substantial. Intestinal malabsorption syndromes of various kinds can impair B12 uptake through general disruption of the absorptive mucosa of the small intestine. Blind loop syndrome introduces a microbial competition mechanism. This condition arises when a segment of intestine is surgically configured in such a way that it forms a loop or a dead end where intestinal contents can stagnate. In these stagnant pockets, bacteria proliferate unchecked. Bacterial overgrowth develops. These bacteria consume the available vitamin B12 within the intestinal lumen before the human host has the opportunity to absorb it. The result is B12 depletion, despite potentially adequate dietary intake. Broad-spectrum antibiotic therapy can paradoxically produce a similar scenario. By killing off the normal balanced gut bacteria, antibiotics can allow certain B12-consuming bacterial species to overgrow and dominate, depleting intestinal B12 before absorption occurs. Diphyllobothrium latum, pronounced Diphyllobothrium latum, the giant fish tapeworm of humans, is acquired by eating raw or insufficiently cooked freshwater fish. This parasite takes up residence in the human intestine and directly competes with the host for available vitamin B12 within the intestinal contents.